Welcome to my screencast about my lesson plan for earthworms and gummy worms. This lesson plan was created to cover the kindergarten standard for living and non-living. Students need to construct an explanation based on observations to recognize the differences between organisms and non-living objects, and to develop a model to represent how a set of organisms and non-living objects are sorted into groups based on their attributes. Within the process of this project, we will touch on several of the writing objectives for kindergarten found under ELA for informational writing. For the technology standards, we're really looking for a construction of knowledge and for students to be creative communicators. The essential questions for this lesson are: how can I research if an earthworm is living or non-living? What are the criteria for an earthworm or a gummy worm to be either a living or non-living thing? And how can I express the criteria of an earthworm or gummy worm being a living or non-living thing? And we're looking for the kids to understand criteria when they're looking to determine if something is living or non-living. Through their investigations, they will be guided to understanding that the questions they should ask are: does it move? Does it breathe air? Does it need food? Does it need water? Does it grow and change, or can it make more of itself as reproduction? The children will start by exploring through Pebble Go and through Nearpods to understand the definition of living and non-living. So I'm going to jump out here and go into the Nearpod, which will show kids can explore on their own what is the criteria for living and non-living. They can also go to our school's Symbaloo, where they'll click on Pebble Go, and they will go to the section for living and non-living, and they can explore on their own as they click through the different tabs. And if they click on the microphone, it's read to them. At the end of this, they will create a list that they'll take with them as they go into their activities. The next thing they'll do is they will access a thing link that is kind of the brainchild of this particular lesson. I started creating this lesson when we determined that we did not want to go to the store and buy actual worms, so we came up with the next best plan, which is to create a thing link with links to actual worms, worms who are doing composting, worms are wonderful, and the wild crats give us some explanations about worms. And then we also take the kids on a field trip, a virtual field trip to a gummy worm factory. We will meet Sesame Street worms who are not real, and then other fictional worms. And then at the end of this, students will go to a screencast where I've created a can-do, must-do choice board. So if we go back, I'll show you the can-do, must-do choice board. So students must do an activity where they are exploring an experiment called Frankenworms, in which a chemical reaction will make gummy worms move, which challenges the students' understanding of living things move independently, whereas a chemical reaction is causing the gummy worms to move. From there, the other must-do that they will load into Seesaw is that they must work as a team to create a teaching poster. They'll teach the presentation to the class and we'll load it into Seesaw. From there, there are 4 can-dos. They can create a worm dance, a worm song, a worm story, a worm drawing, and then they can also scan QR codes for worms. Within the can-dos, I've added writing the story. If they have another idea that they want to do that shows creativity, they can do that. Now, with that, there's a formative checklist. So as you go through the activities, you're looking each time, did they give you reasons? We're looking for at least 4 reasons listed for criteria for living or non-living. And was the criteria correct? Were they able to give a sentence detailing the results of the Frankenworm experiment? And then again, in their group project, were they able to give criteria for living and non-living? And then on their individual creative process, were they able to give at least 4 reasons of evidence for living or non-living? And was the criteria presented correctly? This activity, you can see the Frankenworm experiments here, the recording page, and then also Padlet. Padlet is a choice tool for them to use that provides an authentic audience. They are required to load into Seesaw. I don't have Seesaw illustrated here as it's a tool that is specific to our school and only able to be accessed through the school platform with student information being personal. But I did want to show you how to load to Padlet. So if you're in Padlet, you would go click on the Add button, and then you would upload, and then you would choose a file that you would like to upload to your Padlet wall. So the students could choose to upload one of their creations, a video that they've used on the tablet, and they're very familiar with how to use this particular technology. So to recap the technology that was used in the course of this, we've had Seesaw, we had QR codes, we had Padlet, we had Pebble Go, we had Nearpod, and we actually had ThingLink, and then we had a Screencast-O-Matic embedded in ThingLink through SafeShare. The kids had a lot of fun with this particular activity. It started off on a whim because we didn't want to buy worms, and it kind of grew into a really fun and creative activity that our entire kindergarten team wound up using. So I hope you also enjoy this.